What is going on, guys? Long time no see. We are going to dive in now to Toledo Bend, Bass Nation Regionals down at the Texas-Louisiana border. Now, if you guys don't know where Toledo Bend is, here's a reference for you. There's Lake of the Ozarks. Toledo Bend, you go right on down south, Texas-Louisiana border, that is Toledo Bend. It is about a 10.5 to 12-hour drive, depending on how you drive. And we made this journey starting on a Friday after I got off of work at 3 o'clock. And we beelined it straight down south, drove through the night, and we were sleeping in the boat ramp parking lot at 3 in the morning. Got up early, hit the water first thing on the upper end of the lake. Now, this is a big lake. This is a big tournament. I took a lot of time to research it, study it. Navionics, as you can see, I'm using. I didn't use solely Navionics. I also use Lake Master. I use Google Earth. I use so many different types of maps to research this lake, because that is the #1 thing you can do when you're traveling to a lake you have no clue. Yes, you can call and get a bunch of information and call people and have them give you spots and all this other fun shit. Not me. That's not what I was doing. It just, for me, part of the puzzle is doing it for myself. Yes, networking is a key factor. Most of the great anglers network and get info from other people, which is fine. It's not for me. I like to find stuff on my own. That's how I get to become a better angler. And actually, I don't know, I just enjoy it. It's a personal challenge, me and the fish. And if you can figure that out, that's great. You know, if you follow me, I ended up 8th place out of 150 boats or something like that. I don't remember what the exact number was, but which 8th place on a lake I've never been to, and you know, showed up and did really well. I cannot complain about that. It's awesome. But anyways, so let's start on what's going on. This video is day 1, 2, and 3 of practice, all rolled into one. But it's going to be mostly me talking to you guys about how I broke down a lake. So let's zoom in on it. So here is Toledo Bend in its full glory. Such a big lake, big body of water, running pretty much north and south. It is at the widest spot, I think, like right here, and maybe another spot down here. It's about 5 miles wide. I wouldn't say it's quite that far, but it's wide. And there's one thing you need to know about this lake is if it gets windy at all, it is dangerous. I know that for a fact because one day we kind of went out trying to practice. Like, I think it was our 4th day of practice. No, it was our 3rd day of practice, which we pretty much just chalked off as a loss because it was so rough. We were going to plan on going offshore fishing, and it was rough. And it was, I think, 12 to 14 mile an hour winds that day. And but anyways, so when I break down a lake, this is the big thing. I try to break it down into sections. 4 sections if you have the time, 3 if you don't. So I decided this journey, I was going to break it down into 3 sections and try and focus on the north, the middle, the south. That's how I plan on doing it. So the north end is really shallow. That's where your shallow water is. Now keep in mind, we show up the day after a hurricane finished blowing through. So the lake is just trash. It is muddy as can be when we put in at Huxley Bay Marina. Now Huxley Bay Marina is right here. That is Huxley Bay. That's where we drove down, slept in the truck, we put the boat in. We'll zoom in on it in a minute. But anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to break down the lake in sections. This was super shallow, and I had no interest in trying to learn it. Nope. I'm not going to go risk tearing up my boat before a big tournament in a part of the lake I have no clue after a hurricane went through. Nope, no interest. So we started a little bit farther south where there's a little bit more contour lines and some really defined boat lanes. That's where we go. Then day 2 we focused down in this area, and day 3 we tried to fish in this area, but it was just too rough. And then day 4 we go down here. But anyways, let me zoom in on Huxley Bay. You enjoy some footage of the day 1. Catch a fish, first 10 minutes of fishing.
Good morning, everybody. Guess what? It has been a long time since I posted anything, but today we are spending the day on Toledo Bend. I have the Bass Nation Regionals coming up this week, and I'm going to spend a few days down here practicing and trying to have as much fun as possible. Got Eric right there. He's fishing as a co. He came down to fish with me for a few days, and hopefully we can figure out something. Really, unfortunately, as a co, he's just at the mercy of his boater. But if we can kind of figure out key baits to fish with and stuff like that, it'll definitely help him in the long run, as long as he knows what he needs to focus on. And it'll help me big time being out here practicing. A body water you've never been to, you need to get out there and learn it. So we're gonna get out here, we're gonna have some fun. It's a Saturday, it's beautiful, calm, the day after the hurricane rolled through. There's a little bit of wind. We're gonna avoid the main lake as much as possible just because I don't know it, and with this hurricane coming through, a lot of logs floating around stuff and boat lane changes and just stuff where not really worth the risk, especially if I'm gonna be here for 6 days. But anyways, we're putting in at Huxley Bay Marina, and we're gonna try and see what we can find around here and adventure south every day and try and figure a better bite, maybe closer to the ramp. But I wanted to come up here first because if I can stumble into something good up here, I can get away from the pressure of the tournament down there. So let's get in the water and catch some fish. Yeah, I imagine the whole lake's gonna be kind of muddy. I think it's gonna be like yeah, I'd say like a chatterbait or spinnerbait along any kind of. Well, that's my first Toledo Bend bass. I'll take it. That's a start. Thanks, buddy, for biting. That's how you start a trip right there. Jump for us. Well, goodbye.
All right, so how about that? Right away, caught a fish first 10 minutes. After that, it was a dry spell. The whole day. It was terrible. The water was muddy as could be, and I thought maybe we could get a bite shallow starting out, and then we moved out. So starting out, we put in right here at Huxley Bay Marina, and we went straight to that dock. That was an isolated dock, and the only one in the area, and it was in some shallower water, maybe 3 foot deep. And I was like, well, there's probably going to be a fish on that dock. And I was right. So I said, you know what? Let's try some more stuff. So we fished all the way back onto that dock, went all the way back to that dock, we went all the way around back to that dock. We fished all of this, and I caught one little Kentucky right there. By then, my battery had died. And then we ventured out to some deeper water, because I always go to a lake, I start shallow. If you can get bit shallow, you're going to have a really, really good time. But if you can't, then you got to go offshore. I was really hoping to get offshore and catch some fish out there, but a little bit unbeknownst to me, day one, something I didn't really know about was they had been spraying that lake, killing all the grass for like a whole year. And your offshore bite was pretty much done. It died. It was no more. But we tried fishing on some steeper banks. There's a submerged bridge and roadbed out here. We tried fishing that. And then we decided, okay, well, we fished some deeper stuff. Let's go a little bit farther south, fish a little bit more deeper stuff. And that didn't work. So let me go to the next spot. Okay, so the next spot we went to is we made about a 4-mile journey down south, and we ventured on all these little contour lines along here. We fished all these little contour lines, stopping intermittently just to kind of check it out, try and get a bite. We could see the fish down there, just couldn't get them to bite. So I said, all right, let's go shallow again. Mind you, the water is muddy, real muddy. So we go all the way in the back down here, and we fish around, where I'm literally churning up mud with the trolling motor, and just couldn't get a bite. So that was wrapping up day one. Not much footage, not much excitement, but I learned something. I learned not to fish up there. That's what I learned. I learned just get away from that. As muddy as all could be. So day two. We get off the water, we load the boat up after day one. We drive south. A guy that knew I was coming down said, hey, why don't we just grab dinner? And I'll kind of talk to you about a few spots that might produce, a little bit of here, a little bit of there. And unfortunately, stuff he showed me was just stuff that we kind of already tried, didn't catch anything doing it, and it just wasn't my style of fishing anyways. But the next day, there's a gentleman named Elijah Talley. He's a guide in the area, and I don't know boat lanes. So I reached out to a few people in the Toledo Bend Facebook group, and I said, hey, anybody in the area know or have the time to maybe show me how to run boat lanes and kind of show me the lake a little bit so I kind of understand how you know where you're at. And well, anyways, Elijah said, sure, why don't you meet me at a boat ramp the next day? So day 2, we meet with him. He's got his boat, I got my boat, and he kind of runs around, showing me kind of stuff, and I go fish my own thing, he does his thing, and then we run into each other and run to another spot. So I kind of understand the boat lanes, and it was kind of a learning experience because I had no clue what they were. I'd never been on a lake with boat lanes, so that was definitely cool. So let's skip to day 2 footage, and then we'll talk about where I was at and what I was doing for that.
Yeah, when the water is up, I imagine this is really good.
Hold on, buddy. I know what you're trying to do. Ooh, he's been plugged in the head by something. Got him.
Got it. What was that on?
Popper.
Little popper.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. I knew you had it. I just was double checking. I got you right in the tongue, didn't I? Nope, I didn't.
All right, so here we go. Day 2, caught a fish really quick. So right there's the boat ramp that we put into. There's a little bridge right there. Right there. That first fish came right there. Now, a couple of the other fish came a little bit farther south. But we're focusing on, at this time, the middle of the lake. I'm not focusing on the north anywhere. I'm not focusing way south. I'm focusing on the middle, trying to kind of run around, focus in creeks. That's the big thing for me. It's October. I'm used to Lake of the Ozarks. The fish have started moving back. You're fishing secondaries, creeks, kind of shallow, trying to find a bite. And the water wasn't much cleaner, but it was cleaner. And one of those big things to know is the closer you get to a dam, usually the cleaner the water is, then usually the deeper the lake is, and the cleaner, just the cleaner quality water you're going to find. So as we ventured around down in this area, so we were kind of venturing around down in this area, and he was showing me around kind of some of the ways to run and all this stuff, and learning the boat lanes, where to cut over, because mind you, when this hurricane comes through, it blew the buoys all over the place. The buoys were not in the right spot. They were in the trees. So if you would have followed some of these boat lanes, you would have been running right through the tree line. You would not be in the safe zone. So you really had to pay attention to your graphs. I ran the entire weekend and the tournament and the practice down there, just running waypoint to waypoint to waypoint for the marker buoys. That was the safest way to run that lake because you couldn't trust the buoys that were actually there. And your GPS coordinates are almost pinpoint accurate within a couple feet. So that was the safest thing. But learning how to run the lines and all that other stuff was amazing. That was really cool. Had a decent day 2 practice. Just kind of running around, but I started getting bites in the very backs of places. Like in the very backs of the creeks. Really shallow. 2 foot, less than 2 foot, started getting good bites, and not on anything else. We tried everything but topwater. That was the only thing we could get bit on, and unfortunately, it's just in my wheelhouse. Shallow topwater fishing, that's what I love. That's one of my favorite things to do. If I can make it happen, I do. So that wraps up day 2, fishing with Eric and Elijah, following him around, showing me how to navigate that. And he showed me some dangerous spots that you really need to be careful of, and that's important. Some of those things that you need to really have somebody say, hey, be careful when you go here. Don't, or hey, you can cut through this area. Even though there's no buoys, it's a safe spot to run, and that saves you a lot of time in a tournament. So anyways, let's skip to day 3 now. Let's start with the footage of day 3, and we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
Like I said, that boat ramp should have a fish on it. That's a good one. That's a 4-pounder. Woo, you just keep on running. Run that deep water. Yeah, you just keep running. Just keep on running. Come up and jump. Ooh, it's like Florida all over again. Nope, not quite 4. Good 3. Not quite 3. 2.5. 2 3/4.
He's shrinking. When he got out of the water, he looked like he was pushing 3.
Yeah, I know. And then you pick him up in your hand, you're like, he's not that big. Well, he was up there waking on that boat ramp. Did you? Oh. Just had a... Yeah. Well, I mean, pick it up and throw it. Around all these pillars up close to the bank, I think is where we're going to get our bites. I just had another one blow up on it. I gotta find that hard bottom, like boat ramp bottom and stuff like that, or submerged structure that's hard. Alright, we're leaving. Oh yeah, I got him. I got my pattern. It's done. Woo! Now that's a dandy. Chill out, dude. Just chill. Well, that's a 3. Alright, I got my pattern. We're going. I'm coming here tomorrow. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, here we go. Day 3. This is the final day. Well, it's actually day 4 of practice. Day 3, we just chalked it up as a loss because it was so rough. We went out and fished, but we really more or less idled around and kind of trying to find stuff. But day 4 of practice, or the day 3 of footage, here we are. I focused on the very south end of the lake. We put in right here at this little public ramp next to the dam. The dam's right here. And what I noticed immediately when we put the boat in the water, clean water. That's what I was really hoping for. But the big thing, like I was talking about using Navionics, Google Earth, you know, just learning your terrain, using your electronics, you know, your computer, your laptop, your units when you're not there, just researching everything. Something I really noticed that I really paid attention to and I really wanted to try, but I didn't want to do it until the day before the tournament, was there was a bunch of boat docks down here. And what that told me is there's a lot more population, which there's more people there. That's great. But what I didn't really care about was the docks, because all these docks had brush underneath them. That wasn't a big thing. We tried fishing brush under docks, and it just wasn't panning out. But what these docks had were boat ramps. And if you could find shallow water boat ramps on a sandy bottom lake with that hard surface from that boat ramp, your fish were stacked there. In day 3 of practice, I found a great bite in a spot. And I'm going to fast forward to it, and you'll see it. All right, here we go. So this bank right here could have very easily won me the tournament if I landed the fish that I had hooked up with. Now, granted, I could have won it with all the other fish that I lost to throwing top water. It's just that's the brutal part of the whole tournament, was at the end of it, I knew I was on the winning pattern. I had the winning fish hooked up, as you'll see in the tournament footage. I just couldn't get them in the boat. And I made some changes on day 3 of the tournament at cut day that solved that problem. But unfortunately, I didn't adapt fast enough. And we'll talk about that in the actual tournament footage. But this is practice, so let's continue on with this. So this stretch of bank right here has a lot of docks, but this stretch of bank also had a lot of boat ramps, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that hard bottom, and the other thing I was really looking for that it had to go with that hard bottom of the boat ramps was the contour lines. The contour lines came way out. Like, it was a shallow, flat, sloping point with a creek channel right on its side, and it produced a lot of fish. The first hour of fishing when we drove there on day 3, this is where I wanted to start. This is where we started, and by the time I got to this spot right here, I knew this was where I was starting my tournament. I caught 4 fish that were over 2.5 to 3 pounds. One of them was closer to 4, and I knew right then and there, I'm leaving, because there was still a bunch of boat ramps to go, and I was not even going to risk hooking them. Now, the benefit of doing that in the day before a tournament, knowing that your pattern should hold up if the weather is consistent, which the weather for the next 2 days, which tournament day 1 and 2, was consistent. And I came back here and I proceeded to catch a limit out of here. I lost several others, which was very frustrating, but I caught a lot of fish right here, and my co-anglers caught fish there too. And that was the great thing about it, is it just had everything you needed to do really good in a spot that did not replicate anywhere else in the entire area. I fished the entire cove. All right, so here we are zoomed out. This bank right here, it kind of represents a lot of the little pockets in there. It repeats itself, but there weren't boat ramps on a lot of these banks. And if there were boat ramps, they were too shallow, like they were literally out of the water, or they were too steep. They weren't just that gradually sloping bank with a creek channel up next to it. So needless to say, come tournament day 1, I've spent all day down in that area, but that bank right there, first thing in the morning, was on fire, and then I ventured around. But we'll talk about that in another video. But that was practice. I broke it down, I found the bite, and that's what led to having such a great tournament down there. So the lower end of the lake was cleaner, it had the right contours, it had the key bites, and it was just amazing. And having that much extra time and practice, after I spent 1 hour there, I knew that's where I was starting. I started to just look around. I started to idle around. I started to look in the backs of these pockets, and I found something that was very key to my success in the tournament later on. I found grass. If you get into the back of some of the pockets, there was grass, and that was a very limited amount of pockets. Maybe 4 or 5 pockets that I went into had good live grass, and it held some big fish, and unfortunately I lost them. Didn't get any of the big ones in. I had one that I know was well over 5. It was probably 7. It couldn't even jump out of the water, but that's part of top water. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this footage. I pride myself on the fact that I went to a lake I had no clue about, and I just broke it down. I broke it down. I'm not really well traversed in fishing different regions. You know, like my shirt says, Ozark angler. I know the Ozark region. I don't know southern lakes. I don't know northern lakes. I don't know western lakes. I know a little bit about Okeechobee because I go there every year. But it was fun. It was fun to go there and break it down and have a good time. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll have some tournament footage coming up here in the near future, and I'll break it down too, what I did each day in that tournament, just because it was cool. It was a fun experience, and I would not suggest going there, unfortunately, for vacation, because if you plan a 3 or 4 day vacation there and it's windy, you're screwed. It's just too rough. You can't fish it. Day 3 of the tournament was pretty rough, and I made a mistake on that one. But anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully you enjoy this, and I'll see you on the tournament videos.